Hello, I'm Oral and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. And with me I have Dr. Nilda Arduin. Dr. Arduin, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you. The last time you was here was a little over a year ago when you did your whole trilogy on slavery, etc. How are things going since then?
Well, in fact, in 1 year plus, a lot happened. Even more than I myself anticipated, because as you know, when I was here last year, it was in fact the second time since my retirement that I showed that I'm still around. Yeah, the year before, after having reflected on my career and did the evaluation in 2021, I first in fact throw out the challenge to the community by writing an article on a call to action. And that call to action came to fruition last year, because at that time I encouraged persons that will be politically engaged to that had any idea to run for politics the next election, that they had to prepare. And at that time, I offered the public in general, once you have a group of 10 persons or more, I'm willing to come in, give you a presentation, a little history of the kingdom and how we reached here. And lo and behold, I'm glad various organizations, even political parties, made use of it. And voila, here we are, a few months before the next election. Yes, so that call to action, yes, I think it was worth it. And the reality is we are there. Gonna face an election in just a few months. Apart from that, last year, indeed, when I was on your program, Oral, we spoke about slavery. And at that time, as a reaction to my trilogy, to give food for thought to the public in general, on hey, how did we reach here? I went then into how the effects, the after effects of slavery in our present society, because then last year we spoke about it, how many people do not envision, are not aware of the remnants of slavery in our society. A lot of people do not realize that enslavement of African people have been a huge dehumanization process for centuries. Yes, slavery and as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, the main thing was dehumanizing the African race. And that dehumanization did not stop after slavery. We remember, for example, in the United States, in the times of Martin Luther King, when they had these non-violent protest actions against segregation, they used to send dogs, yeah, to attack human beings. Yes, so at that time we spoke about that, the dehumanization of the African race. And so unless we realize that dehumanization for prolonged time has its effect today, institutionally and in the mind of the people. That's why Bob Marley sang, really free yourself of mental slavery. So that is a long story about where I am today. Today, I am doing consulting work for NIMD.
I want to ask you to hold that thought there for a while, all right? Because when you was here the last time, I asked you, as an attorney, you retired, and you said, I retired, but they brought you back out of retirement. Right?
Yes, and I must say I do not regret having done that, because as we spoke last year, in my reflection and evaluation, especially about St. Martin, where are we? What are the conflicts that we constantly have with the Netherlands? At that time, I realized that unless we go deeper than the surface, we would not solve our problems, because our problems run deep. And when you have conflict, the way to solve conflict, other than with wars, is dialogue. Dialogue is the most important tool that we human beings have to resolve conflict. And lo and behold, the universe, yes, came right at my doorstep last year, whereby I was requested to facilitate the process of going back to democracy, to full decision making in Stacia.
And so the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy contacted you?
Yes. What happened, this institution, Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, is an institute that exists about 20 years. Their first international project was post-South Africa democracy, whereby they bring political leaders together to dialogue about their differences, whatever conflict. So that was the first one that they did. But in the meantime, over the past 20 years, they have been promoting democracy and having dialogue or facilitating dialogue in Asia, in Mid-East, in Latin America. And this is the first project that they're doing within the kingdom.
So, but this institute was funded by Dutch political parties, right?
Yes. It was, years ago when political parties in the Netherlands realized, wait a minute, what is going on with our democracy? How are we dealing as politicians with each other? They start realizing years ago, hey, we are going off track. So what did the political parties in Holland do behind the scenes? They decided, let's talk and see how we can best work to keep our democracy sound. And so I think it were 11 political parties, all of them had representatives, and they formed a platform outside the politics. So if everybody was represented, they, start realizing, hey, listen, we have to do that, and that to make sure that we don't go really off track. And based on that success, other countries start asking, that organization, that group, it was not an organization, that group, hey, come and help us, we have problems too.
But what's interesting, Dr. Arduin, is that South Africa, apartheid, is only in the Dutch language. Apartheid, there's no other language for it. And it's a partners. Black people had their side to go, and white people was different. Apartheid in South Africa was a very ugly era, and mainly brought on by descendants of Dutch farmers who took over that country. So it's quite interesting to see now this institute from Holland gets involved with Mandela at the time.
Right.
That's quite interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say the mind-boggling for me situation is 1948, the United Nations, you know, the countries, the imperial countries, I say the imperial countries came together to say, hey, listen, what do we have to do to prevent war, right? In the same 1948, they condoned apartheid in South Africa. And there you see where, and that's why I subscribe to the goals of the NIMD, because in the Netherlands itself, political parties realize about 30 years ago, we are going the wrong way. And they decided, hey, let's get our act together. And based on their own situation, this organization, came out of that and start, assisting other countries. And, of course, South Africa.
And that was the first country, actually.
Exactly. And South Africa, that strong Dutch connection, yes?
Right.
Must have been, one of the areas that said, hey, listen, if you're gonna, can do it there, let's talk. And so it continued from there. However, Raul, what I think, of course, is very remarkable, while they have been in existence for 20 years, because when they became independent organization, that it's no longer the political parties of the Netherlands, but they became an independent organization. They have facilitated conflicts all over the world, but never in the Dutch kingdom. So at this point in time, and you said they got me out of my retirement. At this point in time, it's a two-way stream, because I'm telling them we can work on Caribbean and Netherlands, Stacia. However, it takes two to tango. The same way you have to work on the Netherlands, yes, because a lot of people in the Netherlands, not only politicians, but the man in the street, scholars, they don't realize and understand the remnants of slavery up to today. So conflict means dialogue. If I only concentrate on you, for example, in this dialogue and saying, hey, you have to learn to dialogue, what about me? It's not a one-way stream. So I really emphasize there should be a trajectory with the Netherlands to create awareness, yes, of what the remnants of slavery are. And I think when we talk like that, we come to the position of apologies given. It's a different conversation.
Surprised? Because, when you did the trilogy, that was way before the apology, actually.
Absolutely.
And then we had the state secretary came here. She came on this program to let the people know that she was going to be here for the 1st of July. The king apologized. Were you surprised?
No. Remember when I was here the last time? We talked about a new world order.
Yeah.
Yes. And how things in the world are shifting. Remember, decolonization started after World War II, where you also had a shift in the world order. I then explained that the charter of the kingdom, yes, came in fact into existence because the Netherlands wanted to keep Indonesia in the fold. What had happened, these background situations, one often don't look at it. The United States and other imperial countries had put pressure on the Netherlands to decolonize Indonesia. Yeah? A shift of world order, and everybody looking, hey, what is going on? At that point in time, the imperial countries had invested so much in World War II that they did not have the means to keep their colonies neither. Because if you see from that time, you had gradual Caribbean countries becoming independent. They didn't have the finances anymore to keep military posts in these countries because you had those nationalistic movements. Now, were I surprised? This situation had to come one way or the other. We are again in a situation of the world order changing. We can play ostrich about the transatlantic slave trade and the role that the Netherlands play. How long? Because more and more you can see that the archives are being opened and other parts of the history are being presented. So for me, it was, in fact, there was no choice. Earlier or later, it had to happen. And I do not engage in the conversation what I think about the apology. For me, it is what are we going to do from here?
I think that's very important. We can waste all our time suffering about what happened, or we can move on and make things better for our people.
Absolutely. And that is my position. I said, when I listened to the speech of the king, I thought that one was more important than the prime minister's speech. Three things. He apologized, he asked forgiveness, but for me, most important is that he publicly acknowledged that slavery was a crime against humanity. And
that took a lot of courage to do that one, yeah.
And as I said, for me it is okay. As a scholar myself, as a person that have been very much aware of our history and where I am today, in the conversations, I think this gives us a tool. It, quote unquote, legitimized for others as well. No, we are not talking about, we are not angry black people. Yes? The conversation has been brought above the table.
But what do you think about the conversation in the Caribbean now, among many Caribbean countries, about reparations?
It's part of the whole trajectory. That's why I'm saying I do not like to engage in the discussion about the apologies. It is what are we gonna do about it? And the conversation about reparatory justice is part of that conversation. No wonder that the imperial countries have been very reluctant to, on the public stage, acknowledge that slavery was a crime against humanity. Because if you commit a crime, what are the consequences?
You admitting to a crime is...
You understand? What are the consequences?
But didn't the king in his apology acknowledge that?
Sorry?
The king of the Netherlands?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I said three things were, for me, prominent in the speech: the apology, the request for forgiveness, and acknowledging that it was a crime against humanity. So the conversation above the table can start. And coming back to the project that I am engaged with, consultancy on dialogue between the Dutch and Stacia.
Yeah.
we have established a platform on Stacia, a platform with the island council members, all island council members, the commissioners, and the government commissioner. The government commissioner, that is the...
Those are appointed by the kingdom government,
exactly. Right? That position was the entity that represented the past 5 years that are replaced the decision-making power of the island council, the executive, and the lieutenant governor.
Did you notice any resentment from the people toward that?
Of course. It has been a big conflict for all these years, yeah? Great resentment, yes? We wouldn't go into how it came about. However, there is where last year this mediation took part that earlier, I think I mentioned it. I'm not so sure if it was in our off-camera conversation. But there is, because of the tensions and the resentment and the conflict last year, the Honorable former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Antilles Maria Liberia, and the Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Susie Reumer, were asked to mediate. And they had the former Ombudsman of Curaçao, Alba Martijn, as their secretary. They did a thorough analysis to see what happened between 2018, when the intervention took place by the Netherlands, and last year. And they made a report. In that report, of course, not everybody liked it, because they indicated the bottlenecks. And it was not just Stacia. They indicated where the Netherlands had to take responsibility, for certain parts. And they then said to go further, and one has to solve the conflict. And in that light, NIMD again came to the forefront.
Dr. Erda, I have to jump back though, because I think my audience who are viewing this program or listening need to know the Dutch government moved in and replaced a duly elected government of the people of Central Statia.
Absolutely.
And I think people need to realize what happened there and why, looking back now, why didn't they engage in dialogue and bringing in the two people that you mentioned earlier than later? See, because it created such a conflict, not just for St. Eustatius, but for the whole Dutch Caribbean, because people look at it, St. Martin had been through higher supervision in 1994, you recall that? Right. And things changed for 3-4 years, and as quick as higher supervision was no longer there, it went right back to where it was. So with your experience as an attorney, scholar, looking at St. Eustatius from a perspective of the culture of the people of this region, bringing you in, I think, was the best thing to do. But do you see any solution to this problem, or it might just go back to the way it was before that?
Very important point you're making there, Mr. Gibbs. That is one of the reasons that I'm glad I'm doing the project, because let's go back to 2018, where you said, couldn't they have followed a different measure? I'm concluding now with practical evidence as I'm working on this project that the structural supremacy that has been going on since slavery and the abolition thereof continued. I'm saying erroneously all the time to the Netherlands as the motherland, because the Netherlands is the motherland of the colonists, not of the enslaved Africans. Right. But anyway, that role of motherland has been continued. I'm the mother, you're the child. So real dialogue was not in the mind of the people. Neither did we go there. As I'm doing this project, I'm realizing, listen, when you are oppressed, when one constantly give you money and think that you cannot, they give you money rather than teach you to fish, yes? You stay in that dependent mode. So for years, and I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just stating facts. If you either oppressed or have been in a mode that others do for you, because constantly you hear, yes, the Caribbean Netherlands, they don't make decisions, but you know, OJ, I have realized our people have been paralyzed. They are so paralyzed that they don't even know their power. And so nobody said, wait a minute, let's do it differently. It's only now, after the mediation of the prime ministers, they said, wait a minute, what's happening here? It takes two to tango. Don't only look at Stacia. And that's why now we have dialogue. And you know what I have realized as we have established this platform? Not only do the politicians on Stacia start realizing, hey, a house divided cannot stand, yeah? And start listening to each other, but in sessions that we had, I concluded, not only for Stacia, but for the whole Caribbean Netherlands Antilles, people have to rediscover their power. You understand?
Right.
If every time, instead of saying, OJ, what do you think about this? Give me your opinion, blah, blah, blah. One saying, listen, this is what you have to do. The only thing that you can say yes or yes. You don't have a choice in yes or no, but your choice is yes or yes. In the long run, you're going to get angry because you want to contribute, but you're not getting the possibility to contribute because one thinks that you are not capable to contribute. Why that notion has been developed, not only based on the supremacy, however, we have become so paralyzed that we don't even dare take decisions.
I've never heard anyone describe it like that, but you're very accurate on.
Yeah. You know, and that is what we are working on. We really hope that this dialogue platform, we call it the political dialogue platform, Stacia. We have made a huge progress whereby the community itself, we had a town hall meeting 2 weeks ago.
I want to ask you, Dr. Nilda, hold it there. I want to come back to that one. All right? In case you've just joined us on this Oral Gibbs Law, my guest is Dr. Nilda Arduin. She's an attorney, and she's back out from retirement with the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, and she's a consultant for them, right? Yes. When we come back right here on Hot 99.9 FM Radio Facebook and YouTube, this is Oral Gibbs Live. Please stay right back.
Hey, don't guess about your insurance. Be sure that you're covered. Like with your car. Like your home. Be sure to be covered in case of a fire, flood, hurricane, or some other natural disaster. And travel insurance, because you never know what could happen when you're on vacation. You could lose your passport, your luggage, or have an accident. So be sure that you're covered.
Insure yourself fast and easy with Be Sure from the Windward Islands Bank Limited. Visit your preferred WIB branch, WIB Insurance Services, or BeSureSt.Martin.com. Get your Be Sure insurance at the Windward Islands Bank, your partners in progress.
For real? Somebody came in here and steal my curtains? Well, it's a good thing I'm insured with Be Sure, because even the contents of my apartment are covered. Don't play guessing games with your insurance. Be sure.
you be sure, be sure.
In case you've just joined us, this is our Oral Gibbs Live. My guest is Dr. Arduin, is an attorney. We're here to speak with her. You were saying just before the break about the town hall meetings in St. Eustatius.
Yes.
Can continue,
yes.
please.
So I explained that we established a political dialogue platform on Stacia, where the island council members, the executive council members, as well as the government commissioner representing the Netherlands, where behind the scene, in closed doors, we are having dialogues. The parties are having dialogues.
Right.
Now they have reached to a stage whereby they are rediscovering themselves. Yes, because I explained that my conclusion is that the reason why we in Caribbean Dutch don't take decisions, it seems like we're not taking responsibility, we are always afraid to be blamed, is because we are paralyzed. We have lost the power. Yes? And we, in the political dialogue, the persons involved, the politicians, they are rediscovering their power. The reason why we have crab mentality in our areas, because we are angry at each other. It goes for St. Martin, it goes for other islands of the Dutch Caribbean. We are fighting each other. In fact, we are angry of the one that oppressed us or the one that is telling us you're not capable, and we're taking it out on each other because we don't dare address the one that is oppressing us, or, we don't dare to address. That's why, and I'm saying I'm in retirement. At this stage of my life, I don't have to be political correct. Yes, things that oftentimes we did not dare say, I'm saying the apology of the king and acknowledgement that slavery was a crime brings the conversation on top of the table. However, we have to be honest. We have to be clear. We don't have to sugarcoat it. And so I have realized, yes, we often fight each other. We blame each other because we don't want to go to the real culprit. And in this platform, one is rediscovering themselves and each other, whereby they realize, but wait a minute. While this document that I have to sign, and I'm angry that I have to sign this document, there's another way. Let me study the document myself first and let the other party know, listen, I don't agree with this, this, and this. And let's have a conversation. So there is where we at. And in the process, they have learned by rediscovering themselves and each other, they are now dealing in a complete different manner with each other. Because one of the things that we have to do is build trust. So you can imagine, for the population, it is, but wait a minute. In March, we had a campaign. They went at each other's throat. And now you want to tell me that we don't hear that fighting anymore on the radio and whatever? So the platform held a town hall meeting to explain the population what they are busy with and what they have achieved through the dialogue platform. Through the dialogue platform, not only that they discover themselves and each other, they learn how to analyze documents, yeah? And don't go to the table with the Dutch divided, because that's what we often do. We go divided to the table, and then when we come off the table, we say the Dutch rule and divide. No, the Dutch doesn't rule and divide. You went divided, and they make use of it. And so it is a new ball game. And they have told the population, their constituents, 2 weeks ago in the town hall meeting, we are understanding, and through dialogue, we are learning to we get to know each other, and we are learning to deal with our conflicts in a different way. And we want to take the population along, because it's not only the politicians that have felt oppressed and disrespected. It is the matter of a whole population. And so, yes, we are working hard in Stacia, hoping that this project become the pilot for Caribbean Dutch.
So you, as a consultant, give us a little insight to what you really do.
I'm the facilitator. So the NIMD, as I said, facilitates democracy processes in the different countries. As you mentioned, there was an intervention in Stacia. It was for 3 years. So come 2021, hey, so-called they were not ready. However, if you don't go to the core of the problem, you would never be ready. Yes? 2022, the Island Council in 2021 took a decision, listen, we can't continue like this. We have to look for a different way. So we had this mediation committee of the prime ministers. And then a report was made. Now, the NIMD, with its experience, they know, listen, I ain't coming in this territory. I don't know nothing about the people's culture.
So they come to you.
Exactly. So we need somebody that is familiar with the culture, the social political situation. And so, yes, so I came, they came to me after headhunting, and I accepted. And so my role is to facilitate this process.
I couldn't find a better person, man. After you had that trilogy thing, they were watching you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, that is my role.
So you had any surprises in Stacia that they, wow, I didn't know this or that?
You know, the process has been not surprises, but confirmation, real confirmation of things that I thought. Yeah? Let's give one of the confirmations. You can imagine in the process, I'm dealing with local politicians, but I'm also dealing with administration. And one point I had over the years, that when you get technical assistance from the Netherlands, they come, they don't know nothing of the culture, and before you know, their sense of supremacy is boosted. And they deal with the people in Caribbean Dutch like if they're children, like if they're ignorant, like if they're this and that. And the choices they give is, sign this, your option is yes or yes. The point is, I encountered a situation in Stacia with somebody that came to assist Stacia. I wouldn't go into details. However, from the very beginning, I saw that mindset. And then a document had to be approved. And when I look at the document, it was a copy-paste almost of a Dutch municipality. And I asked this person, and the person that listens to it now, he knows who he is. However, we came to such a good understanding because I gave him an assignment. I told him that what you learned here, go and tell others in the Netherlands. So I gave the platform some guidelines how to analyze the document. They analyzed it, and I said, your decision about it counts, whether you agree with it or not. If you do not agree, it's okay, but you have to say why. You have to substantiate why, not just by emotion. And that exercise went excellent. The technical assistant, he could not understand what we achieved. And that was one of the surprises, if you want to call it like that. He could not understand. And so in dialogue with him and me, one-on-one, I showed him, listen, you cannot come with a copy-paste and think you're gonna say, this is it, say yes or yes. These people have a opinion. They are adults. They are able to read. And you know what I said in the long run? I said, you confirmed to me what I thought all along. That technical assistants oftentimes don't go through the process of understanding the culture. Yes? And you maybe well-intended, maybe, but well-intended from a position of supremacy. And that is one of the surprises or confirmations which helped me and shift and solidify what I have experienced many years.
But you know, it's pretty common in colonies when you see people come from the mother country.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what I like? I refer now to the Prime Minister of Barbados, our idol in the Caribbean, yes?
She's been very vocal.
Very vocal, where she said all the islands in the Caribbean, the communities go through a phase of, how you call that, self-contempt. Yeah, I love that term that you use, self-contempt. She said one has been oppressed so much that one doesn't believe in oneself anymore. And this is the part of decolonization. I think it's a new era. The world is in a shift. We, as ex-colonies, we have to realize that the decolonization is not only about, hey, they did and I'm angry. No. How are we reclaiming what we've lost? And that is now, in fact, the passion that I have in sharing with others, reclaiming ourselves, rediscovering ourselves and each other.
That can come across at times as being arrogant. If you're very self-confident, you have your own opinions. They see that as sometimes racist and arrogant. And I say that from experience. And sometimes a lot of people prefer to not show their self-confidence and keep their opinions to themselves, not to be painted by those that come from the colonial powers as what I just described, especially when you're a black person.
And I mean, I'm so happy that you described it fully like that. That's why I'm stressing slavery dehumanized the enslaved Africans, those with a color, with our color. That dehumanization transitioned into supremacy, white supremacy. And you, as a black person, you better know your place, yeah? With all that you have said. And the era that we are going in and should embrace fully,
right,
to throw off that shackle. I mean, when Bob Marley said that in the 60s, 70s of liberate yourself of mental slavery, people did not understand and didn't know how to do it. No, we went along not to rock the boat, yes? But if you are embracing your humanity fully as your natural, God-given gift. As you said, a word, comparing. Hey, I don't have to compare myself with a white person to say how good or not I am. The white person isn't comparing himself to me.
Exactly.
I have to embrace my humanity, yes, as everybody else, as equal, because if not, one will continue to dehumanize and oppress us unless we embrace ourselves, not comparing ourselves, but embrace ourselves with who we are.
So how are the politicians in Stacia treating you?
Wonderful. Wonderful. I don't know, I can say, maybe if for your viewers, I don't know how you do your podcast, but it would be wonderful if other people get the chance to look at the town hall meeting to see how the politicians, yes, long-time politicians, start realizing, hey, there's another way, and start realizing what the source of our conflict is, why that crap mentality, nobody gonna get rid of it other than ourselves, and it really starts with rediscovery.
So then, are you optimistic things will get better for Stacia?
Of course, 100%. The point is, the last item in the returning to full decision making, I'm not calling it returning to full democracy, but full decision making is the last pillar of governance. That is, the lieutenant governor or governor has to be selected, and that would be done, I think, somewhere in January. The process is ongoing. However, what I'm trying to emphasize and what we are doing in the platform, listen, if something went wrong and you go to a new situation with the same attitudes, mindset,
right,
and the same tools, nothing is going to change. You will fall back. So it is, we are totally together in a mindset change. If you look at the town hall meeting, it was their platform. They explained to the community, not me. Yes, each one of them, all stakeholders, all participants to the platform were there, the 5 island council members, the 2 commissioners, and the government commissioner. And each one of them admonished the community. Listen, we are undergoing a transition, and we want to take you along. And that is important.
So as facilitator, how many years you will be with the organization?
As a matter of fact, for this project, in fact, it was a project of a year,
okay,
yes. However, as we have achieved much, the realization, we have to be real. If you have a situation that is there for not years, but in fact ages,
yeah,
yes, some centuries,
right,
yes, to come out of that mindset, you're not changing it in 1 year. So the ideal situation is for it to continue, and they are now in negotiations to have the project continue, at least for 2 years. We'll have to see how that goes, and because it's working on a new mindset, to be able to rediscover each other, rediscover self, and something I said here in St. Martin as well to our parliamentarians in a training that I gave in 2020 and 2021. In the decolonization process, there's a process of rediscovering yourself and recovery. Then mourn when you realize what really, how come you were at this point, why you are angry, why you are have this crab mentality, why, yeah? You mourn, yeah? But that mourning is a process of healing. The next step is you have to catch yourself, and then you have to start dreaming. Make a plan, establish a vision for the future, and commit yourself to it, and then act upon it. In Stacia, these steps that I mentioned, at this point in time, it's going rapidly.
That's nice, because I was thinking about you and your late husband and how committed you were to us as a people, as black people, in having pride in what we do when you all brought Dr. Ben Carson to St. Martin. And I don't know if anyone ever asked you, what would your late husband think today when you look at the politics of St. Martin?
A long story, if though that is a conversation by itself, his name is being mentioned so often when they talk about the lynch law. Yes, yeah. And I'm telling politicians and media who ask me, I think one does not understand real democracy. Because what's the lynch law? Real democracy. You can have a list of 23 people, and in beforehand, the party leader or whoever decides number 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what the sequence is. We go to election, even though I might like Oral Gibbs, that is on number 20, and Oral Gibbs is, in my opinion, and the majority of the people, the preferred candidate. No, but because Oral Gibbs is on number 20 and not in the first 5, Oral Gibbs is not elected. Which system is more democratic?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, you're
so
right.
Your question, what would my husband think? The answer is obvious.
I know you oftentimes speak with the politicians. As you said, you invited the parliament, speak with the parliamentarians. Do you think we're growing as this, I'm trying to use my words very cautiously here, because we call ourselves a country within the kingdom, all kinds of different names. But, when you look at St. Martin, for some people, there's been very little growth politically, and that we haven't matured. Is that a misconception, or you think we have matured in the last 12 years since the separate status?
It's up and down, yes. As you know, up to the time that I demitted office as ombudsman, it was a roller coaster, whereby I, as ombudsman, has told different governments, I don't care if you are playing music chairs, I hold the ministry, accountable.
And you was the first ombudsman for St. Martin?
Yes. So at that time, I was following politics very close, and if my opinion, yes, of that point time was of course different, because this is the first time we have a government that sit there for 4 years. So I think we must acknowledge that there is progress in maturity. Yes, if not, we would not have had it. However, there is quite of noise around. Yes, and I have not been following politics as I was following politics before, for all various reasons, which we discussed, because I believe conflict, you should not deal with conflict from a superficial position, because oftentimes you want to be political correct and don't get to the meat. And that's why in 2022, I was not invited to give master classes to Parliament. And so from that perspective, I can neither, have an opinion of what the progress has been. But when you hear people still feel that there's a lot of noise around, yes? And I hope that just like in Stacia, and I think eventually maybe politicians in Stacia who have been seen like, wait a minute, you know, the stepchild, that they will be able to share their experience with going to the next level with other politicians in Caribbean Netherlands.
So do you see the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy coming to St. Martin to do some work?
If they are asked, if they are asked,
would have to be asked for them.
Absolutely. Look, they are not the organization that step in uninvited.
Or they can invite themselves too, right?
Well, they believe in local ownership.
Right.
And when you believe in local ownership, you're gonna the decision have to come from the local.
So St. Martin have to reach out to them.
Exactly. And for example, and because it's local ownership, St. Martin have to reach out to them. And you can see the fact that while it's the first time working in the kingdom, no, they did not come in and say, Stacia, now we're going to dialogue. No. We're going to look for a local facilitator.
And they picked you. This is good. So you never know. You live in St. Martin. You've been here for many, many years. We all know you. So you never know what the future holds, right?
Exactly. As you know, I always remain available, you know, for everything that's positive. And I really feel and have experience with this trajectory. It is like everything that I did in my years of work as a teacher, as a lawyer, as an ombudsman, everything comes together because all my experience I'm throwing in the basket.
That's so true. Well, Dr. Arduin, I want to thank you, wish you much success. Anything else you would like to add in closing quickly?
Well, I want to remind political parties and the community at large that my offer to free of charge come in and give presentation of how we reach here, the offer still stands because we have to do it together.
Dr. Arduin, I want to thank you. Again, wish you much success, all right?
Thank you.
And that's it for now. I'll see you next time on Facebook, YouTube, and Hot 99.9 FM radio station. Take care. Bye.